My guest today is Marcos Kyprios, founder and owner of Blackland Distilling here in Fort Worth. We're celebrating the release of Prairie Gold Texas Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Marcus, tell us how this idea of this new bourbon came around.
Well, this is our first straight bourbon, meaning everything we've made here from grain to glass, so that we built the distillery in 2018, and this was what we started distilling. So this was since the beginning.
Wow.
We use only grains from North Texas. It's 80% corn, 20% triticale. And once we distill it, we've been aging it in barrels for the last 4 to 5 years. And this is finally our first release, and we're very proud of it.
Yeah.
This is our flagship bourbon that will be on the shelves now. That, you know, as we were talking earlier, there's just not a ton of Texas straight bourbon available. Only a few distilleries have really released their own grain to glass bourbon, just because it's a relatively young industry comparatively. So it's taken us this long. The barriers to entry for a whiskey distillery are really high because you have to make it and sit on it for that long. And so we're really excited and we're really proud of what we've released here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it's pretty strong. That's my first reaction. It's beautiful and it's smooth and all this stuff, but it is you know.
Yeah, so this
makes you pause when you sip on it.
This is a 100 proof bourbon. It's kind of sort of what I like to call the opposite of our Texas Pecan Brown Sugar Bourbon, which is our most popular spirit, very sweet. And that's sort of the nature of where the bourbon market is going right now. Is a lot of people want the higher proof, even barrel strength, which tends to be 120, 130, 140, which is very strong, right? But the bourbon connoisseur drinkers want a higher proof. Now, I think 100 is plenty, and and because of the heat and how we make this bourbon here, it tends to be aggressive. But it's very flavor forward is what I like to say. It's aggressive on the palate at the front, but just like everything that we've done, it's very soft and it's got a short finish on the end. And so I'm really happy with the flavor profile and how it's turned out.
Let's remind folks, you call it Blackland Distillery because this is made from grains from the Blackland Prairie, right? Can you remind folks where this idea came from?
Yeah, sure. So the Blackland Prairie is one of 7 ecoregions in the state of Texas. Okay, it runs just north of Fort Worth down to San Antonio. And we put that on our radar. We're in it right now. It got its name because hundreds of years ago there were frequent wildfires that caused the soil to be black and charred. And when we make the bourbon and the rye, and we age it in the barrels, we age it in charred barrels because that picks up a lot of the wood and the smokiness and the flavor right through it. So we like the geographical connotation of Blackland Prairie and Blackland whiskey, and that's why we named it like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And congratulations, you guys have gone international. I meant to mention that earlier. You're in England. How are the Brits taking to your spirits?
Well, you know, just like everyone loves the Texas Pecan Brown Sugar Bourbon. That tends to have pushed us out. We're in about 18 states now in the United Kingdom, and it's going really well. And so it's nice to have a Texas presence there. And Texas is always polarizing, good or bad, whether you love Texas
got an opinion. They have an opinion.
They have an opinion one way or the other, right? And so if I had started the distillery in Montana and said like Montana bourbon, I don't think we would have gotten open the same doors that we have with the Texas Pecan Brown Sugar Bourbon or the Blackland Texas Bourbon. So that's really been great for us, and it's nice to have a Texas presence over there, and they've been very welcoming.
Well, people have very high expectations for bourbon. It's one of those styles of spirits, and I'm not a spirit snob. I know people have strong opinions on bourbon. So when you guys went into this, you know, trying to make one of the best bourbons in the country, that was a lot of pressure. I'm sure you guys put on yourselves. And so how did you figure out where you're going to fit in this idea of like, you know, standard bourbon or do something a little different? People are going to have strong opinions on this style of beer in particular, more than vodka, say, I imagine.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think even there's a huge argument between Kentucky bourbon versus Texas bourbon, right?
Oh, okay.
And so the climate here has a huge effect, and our bourbon's never going to taste like Kentucky bourbon. And I like Kentucky bourbon quite a bit, but I think Texas bourbon has really come along, especially in the last 5 years, as we figure out and learn how to make great bourbon here. And you can make great bourbon here, but it's got its own distinct style because of the climate and the heat, and it tends to be a little bit more aggressive and flavor forward, but it is a great spirit. And just as the brand that we're trying to make, we're trying to elevate craft and be a little bit more sophisticated, from the packaging to how we make it to the ingredients across the board. We're not trying to be an everyday volume bourbon. We're trying to be a really nice bourbon. I think that's the response that we've seen and the buy-in has just been on quality, and that's what we're always about, and we'll continue to do it that way.
Well, you guys are doing great things. I follow your liquor personally. I notice the most refined bars out there always carry, Blackland, and they may not carry other regional whiskeys and whatnot, spirits, and I'll talk to them, and there's always great feedback about what you guys are doing from the really, pickiest bartenders out there, I'll just say. So we'll see what the feedback is on this as the weeks and months go on, but this is just released. Where can folks buy this new bourbon?
So right now you can buy it in our tasting room. It'll slowly come out this weekend, actually, in liquor stores around DFW, and then finally Austin and Houston and San Antonio. It'll get out there this month. But the reality is, when we started this, you don't make a lot. And so this is a product, again, of 4 to 5 years, and more will come out over time. But we're just not going to have a ton right now, so it's going to be hard to get. And we're certainly going to try and reward those liquor stores and bars and restaurants who have supported us early on at first. Cool. But hopefully you'll start to see it pop up around more and more.
Okay, cool. Well, congratulations. Thanks for putting Fort Worth on the map within this Texas bourbon, and then Fort Worth's also helping Texas bourbon become a thing more and more across the country and the nation. So, Marcus, congrats on this new achievement.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers.